Optionals. This is a fairly new thing to most programmers, but it's a great feature of Swift 4. Now, occasionally, and this is the reason we need optionals, occasionally we need to have a variable that we don't write to immediately, so it doesn't have a value. We might actually write to it later on, though. And in most programming languages, this actually causes two main problems. One, if nothing is stored, then we get what's called a null reference. And that simply means there's nothing stored inside it. Now, if we try to access that, it's going to give us a crash at runtime in most other languages. Swift's a bit different. That means your whole app will crash. That's it, dead, over. And obviously, that's not good. So, that's the first problem. But the second problem is related to the first one in that we need to actually add more code to check the variable is there. And you can imagine with a lot of variables, this code could actually add up and cause other problems of its own. Now, Swift does away with these problems quite elegantly, but it's a bit confusing at first because of how they've constructed it. So, open up a playground and let's have a look at how to use optionals. Right, let's create a variable called myString, and let's give it a type of string. And let's see what Xcode says about this. Xcode seems to be okay so far. Great. Now let's print myString. There we go, we have an error. So variable myString is used before being initialized. That means there's no value in it, and that's going to cause us an horrendous error. So Swift won't let you do this, and it's clever enough that before we release our program, it says, hey dude, you might actually have an error here, so please fix it, okay? Other programming languages aren't so hot on this yet, but they are changing. I believe F# is actually changing towards this sort of paradigm. Now, if I put a question mark after this string, what I'm saying is there might actually be a string inside of myString. And if this works, let me just try and hover. No, it doesn't work. If I just type myString here, notice how the type changes to string question mark. That's important to know because that means it's an optional. Now, what's the difference between that and that? Well, the first one, the type is a string. The second one, the type is an optional. So that's important to realize the difference there. The first one, it's a string. The second one, it's optional. So in the second one, we're saying, here's a box. It's an optional box, and it might contain a string. But it's up to you to check if that string is in the box. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say if let myString value is equal to myString. So what we've said here is if let. If we can create a variable called myString value from something inside of that box, then, and only then, are we going to do something with myString value. So we could print myString value. And hopefully, that's not going to print. And there you go. Right, so I hope that's clear. And by the way, let is just another way of creating a variable, same as var. There is a difference, but we'll get to that in due course. So if we can get a variable from this box, then we can use it. So we've said it's optional. If we can get it, then we can use it. And that's the very basics of optionals. Now, normally, I wouldn't teach these this soon in the course, but I think it's safe, or it's safer, if I give you a tiny introduction now, so later on, you're not kicking and drowning in the water of all this code, and then suddenly I've introduced something called optionals and you're like, what's happening? That's why I've done it now. So one final thing to do, let's make this equal to my name. And we should be able to print that out so you can see it works. So we've checked if that variable actually exists because it's optional. Okay, perfect. Let's move on. Congratulations! You made it to the end of this video, which puts you in the top 10% of my viewers. For each one of you, there are 9 others who didn't make it this far. That perseverance you've shown means that you're much more likely to succeed as a developer. Now, to help you on your way, I want to give you the next part of my iOS course completely free. No trials, no credit cards, instant access. Simply click the link below the video to ensure that you don't miss out.